Hello everyone, thank you all for joining me. Today we are going to talk about a long-awaited topic of triggers. So almost a year ago, I did a video explanation series on state controllers from A to Z. And I've been requested many times over to do explanations of the triggers, which are far more intimidating. Here is a look at all the Mugen triggers that I do not use. Note the red arrows. And I have no idea how to use that stuff, nor have I ever had the need to use it. So I'm going to go over the triggers that I do commonly use. And I think a great lesson is that there is a lot of codes you don't need to use. Rather, Mugen offers a lot of options to get the results you want. Now, before we start, here's a small disclaimer. I'm using the nightly developer build of Ikemen Go for this video. I'll include a download link in the description. So some of the codes may work differently from actual Mugen 1.0 or Mugen 1.1. Ikemen Go does fix a lot of the unfinished broken stuff in Mugen, and it has some other issues that are extremely minor, like you'll never notice it. But for the stuff that I'm using today in this video, it'll work the same between versions. At least it should work the same. So now onto the video. And before we start, I just want to show some things that we're working with today. There's a website called Mugen-net.work. It looks like this. If you click on the wiki, the wonderful gentlemen of Dɪsᴄᴏ, Vans, and Kamikaze Sensei, they have pretty much transcribed the Mugen docs into a wiki style page, and you pretty much have all the documentation here you can need: S-control, storyboard, sprites, triggers, CNS formats, fonts, everything's here. So using this, you can pretty much view everything in a very nice, clean wiki format, and it's easy to go from place to place. So it's a nice thing. You should all check it out. I highly recommend it. I'm going to keep a link in the description below. The next thing that I have open is the Ikemen Go folder, and of course Kung Fu Man. In this case, he's Kung Fu Sample Man. We're going to look at state 200. Animation is 200, and we're going to use the hit def for our first example. So the way this works is, and bear with me with this still kind of blows my mind a little bit because I've been wrong all these years. And now I've learned the right way about certain things, so it's kind of overwhelming in a sense. The trigger is the activation for the code you're using. In this case, the hit def is activated on animation element 3. We're going to check out animation 200, standing light punch. It has 5 frames or 5 elements. This is 1, 2, 3. I made a big hitbox because I can't see sometimes. So we're going to test that right now. Boom. And there you go. Now, if I put this on 4, and if you notice animation 4 does not have a red hitbox, it will not hit. It's just going to whiff. So even if I put this on animation element 1, it's going to hit because I'm activating the hit def on this frame. Well, probably the frame before it, but it'll still hit. And hit defs are hard-coded to only work once. So they only hit you one time and then that's it. If you wanted to hit multiple times, let's say frame 3 and frame 4, which isn't physically possible from the way it looks, but we'll go at frame 3, and then I can use these 2 straight slashes. It's above the enter key. It's this button. If you hold shift, you get that. By putting 2 of them, you basically are saying or. So Animelem 3 or Animelem 4. So now the move should hit twice in a very weird kind of way. First, that's frame 3, the first one, and then he pulls back, frame 4. So this is how you can use multiple triggers for the activation. You can also do something like this. trigger 2. I don't know what the limit of triggers are in Ikemen. I think in Ikemen it's 50 or 100, but I remember in Mugen it used to be 9. I think I could be wrong. It could be more. I've never used more than 9 triggers, and when I used 9 triggers, I was brand new to Mugen. I had no idea what I was doing, and I just did that. But nowadays I would just do like this. Another thing to note, this symbol or excuse me. So that basically means this trigger or this trigger. Another alternative thing that I use all the time is and. This is 2 ampersands. This will not work because of technicality and limitations. Essentially, the player cannot be in frame 3 and frame 4 at the same time. It's impossible. So this will never work. Okay. Another thing that I do use is Animelemtime. And when you specify Animelemtime, you have to specify a frame. So I'm going to use from frame 4 onwards. The equal 0 means tick, the first tick in frame 4. So like the first time in frame 4. So just for example of that, frame 4 has 3 ticks. I'm going to give it a total of 20. So as soon as frame 3 is over and it goes to frame 4 on 0 ticks, it'll hit. See, so when he pulls back on frame 4, he hits him. And that's how you can do this. If you want, you can also specify 10 ticks in. So for the first 10 ticks of the light punch, it will not hit. But for the second half, it will. So we'll put debug on. I'm not sure if you can see the time here at the bottom. The time goes up when you're in that state. So every time you change state, time starts over at 0. Now let's see. The red hitbox should be on player 2 for a little while and then hit him. Just like that. You would use this if you want to delay an attack or have some... It's hard to explain the use for this, but this is what I would use for certain things. You can also do, which this is kind of chaotic, Animelemtime frame 4 greater than 0. So every tick after it enters this frame is going to hit him. So that's 20 times. That'll be 20 hits. Unless he gets knocked out or dies or something. Close enough. Let's see if I corner him. Okay. But that's how you would use that with the greater than symbol. And less than works the same way. In this case, it'll be frames 0, 1, 2, and 3. Actually, 0 is not a frame. Frame 1, 2, and 3 that can hit him. But only frame 3 has hitboxes. So I got 4 hits because frame 3 is 4 ticks. The next thing I'm going to showcase is time. You can use time equals 0, or a lot of times I use not time. They both work the same. I just have a habit of typing exclamation time. This means not, as to negate. But time equals 0 is the same thing. Essentially, once the player enters state 200, the hit def is triggered right away on the very first tick, and it'll be active until it hits. So this should hit on frame 3 right away. Now, if for some reason my time is more than the hit frames time, so altogether it's 27 ticks from here to here. If I activate on 28, time 28, it's gonna miss because this is past the red box frame, so nothing. So as long as your activation is triggered before the red hitbox, it'll work. Put this back to normal. Now I'm gonna use a Xplod. Now say I want an Xplod to appear on him. Let's go with time equals 5. There are various exploits you can use from the system, which I'm going to use. Let's go with 60. ID has to be a number, position. I'm going to go with -50 and 30 in front of him. Bind time will be -1. Remove time. This is very important if you're doing exploits. Remove time -1 means it's never going to disappear. It's going to stay there forever. -2 means it's going to play it once and then it'll kill itself. It'll remove itself from play. And then these other things are self-explanatory. I'll put this here and remove on get hit. So using time equals 5, notice my time here is 0. Once I hit 5, an exploit will show up. Boom, right here on 5 ticks. There you go. Now how I would play with this is I would use time greater than 5. And this is kind of fun to mess with this stuff. See how it plays over and over? Actually here, let's move this out of this state and take it down to the -3 state. -3 states are only executed on activation. They're always active, but they work on activation, whereas -2s are always active. I'm going to put this here as -3. Okay, 50 there, 60. Just moving it around a little bit. So now this is going to always be active. Let's remove bind time so it's just a floating effect, because this is always fun to me too. It's just cool looking. If you notice, it stops, it disappears, and then it comes back on a second later. The reason why is because of my trigger, which is time greater than 5. If I put time equals 0, every time I change state, it's gonna play. Walk backwards, stand. Walk forward, stand. Get ready to jump, land, crouch. So that's how that works. This is something I recently learned with time. If you do a time, I probably pronounced this wrong, modulo code, or time mod is for short, you can make it play every few ticks repeatedly. Instead of having indefinitely, just playing constantly, you can have it play like every 10 ticks. Okay, so here's how this translates, because I just learned this from Kamikaze Sensei. Essentially, with time, it goes up. Modulo works like a division. Time is always moving. It's always going up. When it goes to 10, it's going to divide by 10 and reset it back to 0. So it's going to play once, get to 10, activate, and then reset to 0 and go to 10, activate, go back to 0. So this will play indefinitely every 10 ticks. If I wanted to. So if you wanted to have like a Super Saiyan or something who has like an aura constantly, you would use something like this to specify that aura. Let's put this under him to make it look better. Let's go with 62. I think 62 is a bigger floor wave. Yeah, it's kind of crazier. Okay, not 62. Yeah, that's kind of better, I think. But anyways, yeah, so that's every 10 ticks. If I put a 50 here, time mod 50 equals 0, then I would get it every 50 ticks. This looks like a pulsating effect. It's really nice. And I use this for all kinds of things. Particles particularly. So this is like a way of doing particles. Say I'm going to put a vel for that effect. Check the effect for dust. $120 is the effect for dust. So using animation 120. I like to make the ID match the animation number. The vel is, I know, so you can use vel or velocity. I never really wondered why, but that's a thing. So I'm going to do a range, right? So the velocity is going to have a range. So it's going to be a randomness range. That's going to be from, let's go with -5 plus random modular 10. So what does this mean? It means it starts at 5 plus a random number from 0 to 10. But since it starts at 5, I believe it's from -5 to 0 to +10. It's +5, sorry. So this number is always half of this number. So it's going to go left and right. And I want this to go up also. Let's go up to 4. Okay, and then we're going to use an Excel code. And this will accelerate it in whatever direction I tell it to go. And that's also, I think I can use the same thing actually. The Y value though, I'm just going to use a 0.1. -0.1. And now the effect is dust is going to appear and go randomly off of his body. See, so now let's actually make this much faster and see how that looks. Okay, so maybe 5 and 10 are just too big of numbers. So let's see. That way, actually, -1 plus random mod 2. This way it's either left or right. Or it's just forward. Either way. You see how it just flies around like that? So that is something you could do if you wanted to have some kind of sparks or ore or something like that. But that's how I would use a time mod code in this instance. I'm going to remove that. Put this back to 61. Okay. I can also, so to limit this, I would use multiple triggers. Like let's go to I want to go back to this state, right? I'm going to make every frame 10 seconds. So now the whole thing is 50 seconds. Okay, very slow punch. So here we go. Every 10 ticks it's going to happen. It's actually more than 5. Maybe I'm not seeing it right, but anyways, you get the idea. So now if I want to limit this, I want it to do the same thing, but I want to limit it. I can use the Animelemtime frames 3 greater than 0, which is the first tick on frame 3, and Animelemtime frame 4 less than 0. This is actually greater than equal. I like this. So during frame 3 only, it'll play this effect a bunch of times, and on frame 4, it will not play it anymore. So I'm going to slow it down, and here's the punch. And there you go, see? I've limited to just this frame only. Okay, another trigger that I use is HitShakeOver. So we're going to put a change state, and it's going to be command equals X and then HitShakeOver. The way this works is once I have hit them with this, the pause time for player 2 is the hit shake time. Once that time is over, it's going to be over. So then this can be activated. And this is for combo purposes. You know, I could be wrong, and I think maybe the ground hit time could be the hit shake. I could be wrong, But it's one of these two. It's pause timer or this, and that's the hit shake for combo. So if I press X twice, it'll go light punch into heavy punch. Let's see if it works. Okay. That did not work. Oh. And move, hit, and hit shake over. Okay, so this trigger here actually doesn't have an on off. It's constantly checking to see if it's over. And because when I press the X button the first time, it's still reading I pressed X and there's no hit shake, so it just skips straight to 210. But now that I have a move hit trigger there, it needs to make contact first with a move hit. Then it'll let me go to the next state. At least it's supposed to. Hold on. Okay. Kung Fu Man had some other codes for combo reasons. So now this is just pressing X. So there you go. And now if I take this exact code, I go to my strong punch and I put this code there and I change the value to 230, which is light kick. I'm going to put it there also. Same thing, just change the value to 240. So now I'm going to create an auto combo using the same codes and triggers. As long as I make contact and I hit him and the shaking is done, I can go to the next state. That's just 2 hits, and then this is all 4. And that's how I would do an auto combo of some sort. My cuts are kind of sloppy in this video just because this whole topic is overwhelming because there's so many triggers and I don't know where to really start. We're going to try something a little silly now. So for this trigger, we're going to use life code. I'm going to use enemy life less than 500. So this light punch will only hit if the enemy has less than 500 health. Notice it doesn't hit, but if I hit him enough, okay, so now he has less than 500 health. It's always going to work. Another fun thing is, let's go with power. If my power is more than 500, which is half of a gauge, like, see, now it doesn't hit. I think that's like 500. Now I can hit him. Like, you can use those triggers for things like that. What you would also use these triggers for is the command file. If I did not want my supers activating on full health, I would put a trigger all life less than, say, 500, right? Actually, let me put it in a better place. Kung Fu triple palm, perfect. So now I've limited my Kung Fu triple palm. I need 1 power gauge and I need to have less than 500 health now. So I'm using that life trigger for this reason. So no matter how much I do the command, I can only get the EX version out. But if I was in danger, it comes out right away because my health is less than 500. And you see power is working here as it is. So you need 1 gauge pretty much to make power work. Okay, another code I would use is the root code. Root only works if the object is a helper. So for this instance, I've allowed my strong standing punch to create a helper named Wood, who's going to be spinning uncontrollably. And if you press Control C, you can see it's a helper, and it has its own information here for debug. So now what I want to do is make wood break when I pass by it. So this is the state for wood right here, and I just use this temporary null state. What we're gonna do is a change state. What I need to use is a root distance code. Root redirects to the player. Only if I'm in a helper. If I'm a helper state and I'm a helper, root will work for me. If I'm a player and I use a root code, it will not work. It will not activate because I am the root. So using the root distance, x, because that's x and y axis, I'm going to use an array of -10, 10. So pretty much, forgot the equal sign. Pretty much 10 pixels to the left, 10 pixels to the right of wood would activate the change state, and it's going to go to 12. Because it's a helper for this purpose, it does not need control, but you can leave it because it doesn't really matter particularly. So I'm going to activate the wood, and as I walk around, it does nothing, but if I walk into it, it's going to snap. What you can use this for is if your character has like power-ups or objects on the field, or like if you recall Marvel vs. Capcom 2, Jill could summon zombies and she could kick the zombies down, or she can like shoot Tyrant and hit him and stuff like that. That's what you would use this for. But root is something I use a lot because I don't use normal projectile codes anymore. I use helpers because helpers gives me a little more freedom with what I want to do with it. Rotation or scaling, colors, PAL effects, spawn more helpers, and I just use that more. So using a root is my best option. Alternatively, you could use a parent distance code. Parent distance is basically if I'm the player and I make a helper, I'm the parent. But if a helper makes a helper, the helper is the parent. So let's see if I can type that out here. Player makes helper. Player is parent. Helper, actually, let's do it like this. Player makes helper. Makes helper. Helper. One is parent. However, player with the helper with another helper, 2, using the code root, player is the root. So root will automatically direct back to the player if it's something like a helper that spawns another helper and you want the second helper to activate to the player. That's what you would use. And if it's just one helper, you can use parent. Or if you want the helper to interact with the helper, you can use parent for the two of them to connect. But just think of it like that. The parent is whoever makes it. The root is the player at all times. Okay, so I lost track of time, and I think this is running on like 30 minutes now. I've only showed a few of the triggers I normally use. There's a lot more, and there's too many thoughts. I can't think of which ones to show you really. It's one of those weird things where I don't have a topic, so it's like spitballing. So I think I'm going to end the video here. If you guys want another video like this, I can do another one with more triggers that I use commonly. And, you know, like, comment, subscribe. Any feedback is good feedback, even if it's negative. So, yeah. Thank you for watching. Kung Fu Sample Man, give the people a bow. Excellent.